I'm just sitting thinking, get this truck off me and get me to the hospital because I do not want to die in the middle of the street.
Sergeant Justin Dodge is a long-serving veteran of the Denver Police Department and has been a member of their tactical unit for 19 years. He remembers the day in 2023 when his life changed. His city was celebrating the Denver Nuggets, who just won their first NBA title.
Anytime one of the major sports teams wins something, we are definitely elevated. It's all hands on deck for the police department. On the night that we won the NBA championship, was a Monday night, there was massive celebrations. Everything was fantastic. The city was just out there celebrating. And then right at the end, we actually had a mass casualty event happen where we had 8 people shot in a parking lot that I was standing 50 yards from when the shooting went down. We had 3 more people shot that night, so we ended up having 11 people shot during the celebration night. It was a little ominous.
Days later, the team had a victory parade in Mile High City.
The parade involved multiple fire trucks. I don't even know, 30 to 40 fire trucks, different players, people involved with the city, people involved with the Nuggets organization. The last truck had the NBA trophy, had the owners of the Nuggets, and it had Joker and Jamal Murray all on that last truck. It started off with a huge celebration, and as the trucks would continue to go by, I think people realized they're waiting for the big finale, waiting for that big surprise as all of these trucks are going by. They're wanting to see what's on that last truck. So that last truck very much got separated from the pack. There was barricades up, the crowd was extremely celebratory, and people started crossing those barricades. We had police officers there, but there was an estimated 1 million people on that parade route. We just got overran. There was 8 Metro guys that was assigned to be basically a reaction force inside of the parade route. The crowds got bigger and bigger, the truck got surrounded, and there was very few of us to go basically rescue that truck and try to get all of the people that were on top of the truck back to safety and make sure that everybody around that truck were safe too. We're walking the truck at a snail's pace, and we're literally pulling people out from under the tires as they're trying to just push their way to the truck. There's times when we were pinned against the truck just because the crowds were so massive, and we would just be inching this thing, a quarter of a mile an hour, half mile an hour. We went for 7 blocks, and as it's turning and making these tight turns to get back, what we're not aware of is the tires on that truck come 2 to 3 feet outside of the frame of the truck as it's turning. When it was going in a straight line and we were pinned against the truck, we were okay. Then it starts turning. I'm at the front of the truck because I'm a sergeant, I'm a supervisor. I'm trying to coordinate with the people inside the truck. I'm not realizing that the truck is turning and that tire of that 80,000 pound beast is coming out 3 feet away from the frame, and it catches my foot. I felt a tug on my foot and I pulled. And as soon as I pulled, I realized I'm caught, I'm trapped. This truck was going a half mile an hour. So it's not like it hit me and it was just over. There was enough time for me to process that I'm losing my leg. And as it's rolling over me, I can feel the injuries as it's happening. And I can feel all of the bones in my foot getting crushed. Having been involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 30 years, having been on many scenes where people have had significant traumatic injuries with 28 years as a police officer, I knew if I stay standing and this snaps my tib and fib, then there's a significant chance that it's going to hit those arteries. And if it hits those arteries, there's a chance that I'm going to die in the street. So I actually had enough time to be formulating a plan, basically, of how do I keep this thing from snapping my tib and fib. And the trajectory that the wheel was going, it was rolling in a way that it was going to start rolling over my knee. And I knew if it goes over my knee, that's where that femoral hasn't branched yet, and it's going to catch that major artery. And if it continues to roll up into my quad and God forbid my hip, I will die on national TV in the largest event that's going on in the nation. And those things were actually going through my mind as this thing is rolling over me. And I can feel, like, there's one point where I could feel this tight sensation, and then I felt my foot get ripped off. It's unique to say, or it's funny to say, that I was blessed that day, but I was blessed that day. The way that the truck was moving, all the experience that I've had, I've been in 2,500 to 4,000 high-risk operations. I can't tell you how many times we've been in critical incidents where you teach yourself to slow down. You teach yourself to not panic. We're able to formulate a plan under extreme stress and put ourselves in a position where we can be safe enough to change direction. And that's exactly what happened here. It was split seconds, but I was able to move and position myself in a way that it only took the lower part of my leg. And that was years and years of training. I remained calm the whole time, conscious the whole time. There was never a point where I was panicking, even though I knew, ultimately it stopped on top of my leg. And then they had to back up. And when they backed up, they didn't get completely cleared of my leg. So then they had to go back forward. And as that's happening, they're turning the wheels too. And my leg is pinned underneath it the whole time. And I'm just sitting, thinking, get this truck off me and get me to the hospital, because I do not want to die in the middle of this street. Eventually, the driver of the truck was aware of what was happening when officers were starting to pound on the truck and get in front of the truck. That's when they knew. So it felt like a long time. I won't lie on that. We all carry tourniquets. We train what we call TCCC. It's basically casualty combat care. Just because we're in the field and we're doing things, and we'll come up on people that have injuries, and we treat self-care, we treat care for others. And we had guys around me, we had other tactical team guys and other police officers that were there. And once the truck got off of me, immediately they started taking care of me. And I basically sat up, looked at my leg, I knew my leg was gone. And one of my guys runs up, says, "Tourniquet?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Get a tourniquet on me, because the tourniquet is going to be what keeps me alive between here and getting to the hospital." So they put one tourniquet on, wasn't as effective as they needed. They put a second tourniquet on, that did stop the bleeding. But now we have this conundrum, because we have an ambulance that's only 3 blocks away, but there's 25 to 50,000 people in between the ambulance and in between me. For a SWAT guy, for a tactical guy, our kit, our vest and our belt is like the most important thing in the world to us. In pitch black, middle of the night, I can manipulate every single thing on my belt. I could get dressed and be ready to go with a blindfold on, because we just get used to our kits. Being completely conscious, tourniquets are on, they're starting to come at me with scissors, which is what they generally do, is they just want to start cutting all your clothes off because they want to see if there's any other injuries. And my brain, immediately when I got hit, my brain went to, okay, my leg is gone, I've lost my leg, but this is not my last operation. I was already thinking, this is not how this ends. This story does not end like this. They came at me with the scissors, and I thought, nope. So I actually sat up, leg is gone, tourniquets are on, and I took my belt off and handed it to one of my guys. And then we have quick releases on our vests. So I took the quick release off, I took my vest off, and I handed it to one of my guys and made mention of, keep this safe because I'm coming back. This is not my last stop.
Sergeant Dodge was grateful to be alive, but his injuries were severe.
It was brutal, man. It was to say it was extremely uncomfortable would be an understatement. I mean, I was degloved from 1 inch below my knee, and everything below that was either crushed or ripped, like gone. There's this twisted silver lining that within hours, certainly within the first couple of days, I had no less than 1,000 people, obviously, giving their best wishes, sending their prayers, but almost every single text, every single response that I would get said, if anybody can do this, it's you. Which shows me that I was living my life as an example and living my life showing people that I'm already ready for adversity. There has never been a time when I have said, why me? Now, that doesn't mean that it hasn't been brutal and it hasn't been extremely difficult. We decided to not renovate the house to turn it into an ADA house because I didn't want that. I didn't want a seat for the stairs because that's not who I am. That's not what I am. I knew at some point I'm going to be running up and down these stairs again. Even when I got hurt, one of the biggest things I wanted to do was not get back to the street to be, wow, check this SWAT dude out. It was to be able to do simple tasks like going to get groceries or cleaning up after we eat and being self-sufficient, because family picked up so much of that for the 9 months. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. It was phenomenal, the help that I received from them and the love that I got, but I wanted to be able to give back so badly. So on January 10th, when I got my leg, I wasn't even looking at the job because I already knew, like in my head, I knew I'm coming back.
Sergeant Dodge vowed to return to his unit. One big moment was when he was able to put on his tactical vest again.
I remember the first time I put it on, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm standing there, I have my kit back on, and it was like, okay, here we go. Next phase. I've gotten to this part. Now let's start relearning how to do everything I was doing before. Because of the prehabbing and because of the intense, I guess, post-injury rehabbing, the day I got my leg is not the day I started building my body. I had 8 surgeries, and in between those surgeries, I was at the gym. I would have healthcare providers or family drop me off at the gym, put me in a wheelchair. I had machines hooked up to me, and whatever equipment that I could use, I would use that equipment. I would have tubes hanging out of me, but I was back at the gym. Because instead of taking 3 weeks in between those surgeries and just doing nothing, he was like, all right, at least maintain a baseline. So once we get that green light, I'm still at that baseline and now I can go. All of those things led up to when I put my kit on and I start going, I didn't even realize I didn't have a leg. It was like, okay, here we go.
He had his family by his side every step of the way and gives them credit for his comeback.
My oldest is 22. So since they've been old enough to comprehend, Dad has always been on call. Dad has always been at the dinner table and then racing out the door because we have an armed barricaded gunman, or we have a hostage situation, or we have murder suspects that we need to go arrest. So that's what Dad does day in and day out. And so we've built very resilient children. We've tried to explain to them that life is not always easy, and there's difficult jobs. Mom and Dad both have very difficult jobs. They're demanding jobs, but we've always tried to make family come first. We were very cognizant of keeping the kids mentally safe and letting them just progress with their lives as normal, and trying to make this new normal as easy as possible for them. To watch my kids grow from this, and I truly believe come out stronger, was incredible. You know, for them to not hide in a shell and be like, oh man, Dad's handicapped, Dad looks different, all those kinds of things.
Earlier this year, Sergeant Dodge was able to get back to work.
I did my first operation on May 15th. And I remember putting the gear on. Obviously, we had done our briefings. We knew what the plan was. We were going to go out there and we were going to execute a search warrant. And as it was happening, I was right back in the game. It was just back to being part of the team, being one of the team leaders. And at the end, I actually looked at my lieutenant and I was like, well, man, I thought there was gonna be more to this. It was almost anticlimactic to go and do this operation, feel very, very comfortable.
Sergeant Dodge is undertaking a new role, motivational speaker. He has a model for everyone, and that is crush the hard.
Obviously, my injury was a crush injury, so that's kind of that crush the hard. But when you find yourself in a spot that is difficult, instead of just sitting back and being like, I can't do this, no, you go out there and you crush that. You take that obstacle and you work your way through it. Crush the hard. It was such a perfect thing for me because I do difficult things all the time. Most of my life, the things that I'm doing to prehab, rehab, my work, they're all hard. So you can either look at it and just go, man, this is gonna be difficult today, or you can look at it and go, I'm gonna crush this. I'm gonna go right through this, which is it's been a motto that I've had my entire life.
For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Sal Bono.